Wife filed for divorce, find a new home unemployed, but she forgot that the house was mine, so I kicked her out the door. I can still smell the fresh paint in the air when I think about that morning. I was standing at the doorway with a suitcase in my hand. Just yesterday we were laughing while repainting the bedroom walls, talking about where the new wardrobe would go. And today, she said it plainly, I filed for divorce. You're unemployed, find a new place to live. She said it like she was reading a weather report. No emotion. Just a fact. For a second, I couldn't speak. My heart didn't break, it just stalled. Like a car in cold weather. She expected me to panic, I think, to beg, to plead, to cry. Instead, I said nothing. I just looked at her, and the silence between us stretched long and cold. What she forgot, or maybe never really understood, was that the house wasn't hers. It was mine. Bought it 2 years before we ever met. Paid every mortgage payment on time. Put every screw into the drywall myself. She moved in with a suitcase and a smile, and I gave her a home. A life. A future. She gave me a deadline. Let me rewind. I met her 3.5 years ago. She was delivering pizza. Seriously. I opened the door, she smiled, and I think my brain short-circuited for a second. She looked like someone I dreamed up on a lonely night. I asked her to stay for a slice. She laughed, said she had other deliveries. I handed her a 20 and told her to forget the rest. She came back the next day. We started slow. Coffee dates, walks in the park, late-night drives where we shared music and secrets. I found myself telling her things I hadn't even told my own family. After a few months, she moved in. She brought color into my world. Paintings, plants, spices I couldn't pronounce. Our house smelled like cardamom and old books. I loved it. Then she lost her job. It wasn't her fault. Company downsized. She was heartbroken. I told her not to worry. I had a stable job in tech enough to carry us both until she got back on her feet. I even liked taking care of things. I cooked, badly, cleaned, handled bills. I felt useful. Strong. But weeks turned into months. And something in her changed. She stopped talking to me the way she used to. No more, how was your day? No more random kisses on the cheek. She started going out more. Said she needed space. Needed to breathe. I gave it to her. I trusted her. Maybe that was my mistake. Then, the job market turned on me. My company folded a small division, and just like that, I was out. Severance helped. I had savings. But being jobless made me feel like a ghost in my own house. She started treating me like one. She would come home late. Some nights she wouldn't come home at all. I asked if something was wrong. She said I was imagining things. She said I was too sensitive. I stopped asking. And then came that morning. I filed for divorce, she said. You're unemployed. You'll need to find a new place. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. She thought she was kicking me out of my own house. I stood there for a long moment, just watching her pack her things like she owned the place. Like she was doing me a favor. That's when something clicked. You realize this is my house, right? I said, finally breaking the silence. She looked up, confused. What? I bought this house before I met you. Your name isn't on the deed. Never was. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I walked over to the drawer, pulled out the paperwork. Placed it gently on the table. I was packing because I thought you needed space, I said. But if you're divorcing me and telling me to leave my house? No. I think it's you who needs to go. She stood there, stunned. Speechless. It was the first time I'd seen her unsure in months. You can stay until the end of the day, I added. Pack what you need. I'll even help you call a cab. But after that, I want you gone. It didn't feel good. I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty. She left that evening. Didn't even say goodbye. Just left a small cardboard box by the door with some old photos and a note that said, I didn't mean to hurt you. But she did. She ripped out the roots of a life I built for both of us. And in the end, I was the one left standing in the ruins. But at least I was still standing. In my house. My home. The silence after she left was heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't just quiet, it was oppressive. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway, her slippers sat by the bed like she was coming back. But she wasn't. I sat in the kitchen for what must have been hours. I don't remember eating. Just staring at that cardboard box she left by the door. I hadn't opened it yet. I couldn't. It felt like opening it would make everything final. Like I'd be admitting to myself that this wasn't some weird dream I'd wake up from. But it wasn't a dream. She filed the papers. Told me to leave my own home. And then she left when the truth caught up with her. I was still jobless. Still trying to figure out how the woman I thought I knew so well could turn into someone I didn't recognize. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow, creaky circles. My brain wouldn't shut off. Every memory played on repeat: her laugh, our Sunday breakfasts, the way she'd curl up next to me on rainy afternoons. It all felt fake now, or at least, unfinished. Like we were actors in a play and she'd walked off stage before the final act. The next morning, I opened the box. Inside were old photographs. Us at the beach. Her hugging me at my birthday dinner. A few receipts for takeout we used to order on Friday nights. A necklace I gave her on our first anniversary. And a note. It was handwritten, folded 3 times, and tucked under the photos. You probably hate me. Maybe you should. I didn't know how to say what I needed. I didn't know how to ask for help without making it feel like blame. You weren't the problem, I was. I started feeling like a guest in your life, like I never really fit in your world. I thought maybe if I left, it would make things easier for both of us. I thought you'd be fine. You always are. Strong. Unshakable. I just couldn't find myself anymore, and I didn't want to drag you down while I kept falling. I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. Every time, it felt more hollow. She didn't just leave. She made me the villain in her exit plan. Turned my generosity into a burden. My stability into suffocation. I didn't hate her. But I didn't miss her the way I thought I would. Something else started to grow in that space. A kind of stubborn peace. I started cleaning the house that afternoon. Room by room. I opened windows, aired it out. Tossed the half-used shampoo bottles, her old magazines, the stack of throw pillows she insisted we needed for ambience. Each piece I removed felt like peeling off old wallpaper, layers of someone else's vision for my life. By evening, the house was quieter, but not as heavy. It was like it was breathing again. Like I was breathing again. I also sat down and opened my laptop. Job applications. Resume updates. Cover letters. I hadn't felt that kind of focus in weeks. Losing her, as brutal as it was, lit something under me. Maybe it was spite. Maybe survival. I didn't want to spiral. I wanted to reclaim. A week passed. Then 2. One day, I came home from a run. Yes, I'd started running again, something I used to love before our routines became hers, and saw a familiar car parked across the street. She was inside, just sitting. Not knocking. Not calling. I watched from the window. She stayed for about 20 minutes. Then she drove off. She did the same thing again 2 days later. And then again the next week. I never approached her. Never asked why. If she needed closure, she could have had it. She just never took the step. Instead, I kept rebuilding. I took a freelance contract, then another. Money started flowing again. The house, my house, started to feel like mine in a new way. I changed the furniture, moved things around. Painted the bedroom a different color. Something I'd wanted to do for over a year, but she always said let's wait. Waiting was over. I even started sleeping better. No more fan spinning in the dark while I lay there wondering if I'd missed something. No more scanning her side of the bed. One night, around 2 a.m., my phone lit up. A text. From her. I miss the quiet. The way you used to hum while you cooked. The way you always made coffee before I even asked. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I turned off the phone and went back to sleep. Because sometimes, what you miss isn't a person. It's the comfort of the past, the version of you that existed in that space. But you can't go back. And you shouldn't. She left. She underestimated me. She thought she was cutting me loose. She forgot I was the one holding the rope. Weeks turned into months, and the echoes of her faded slowly. At first, every room in the house whispered something she once said. I'd hear her voice when I walked past the spice rack, too much cumin, again? I'd hear her laugh when I opened the hall closet, remembering the day we got stuck organizing it and ended up building a fort out of shoeboxes. But silence, I learned, has a way of healing. It's not a void, it's space. And when you finally sit in it long enough, you start to hear your own voice again. The one that got lost in someone else's story. I stopped waiting for her texts. Stopped glancing at parked cars. Stopped listening for footsteps outside my door. And then, something strange happened. I started enjoying my own company again. I'd wake up, make breakfast eggs the way I like them, not scrambled into a rubbery mess because she couldn't stand runny yolks. I took my time. Sat by the window with coffee and watched the street slowly wake up. I didn't rush anymore. There was no one to please but myself. I even pulled out my guitar again. It had collected dust in the corner for over a year. She once told me it made her anxious, said the vibrations got into her chest. I respected that and stopped playing. But now? I'd strum softly in the evenings, letting the chords bleed into the walls. It felt like reclaiming a part of myself I didn't know I'd given away. One morning, about 3 months after she left, I got a letter. An actual letter. Not an email. Not a text. Real paper. Her handwriting. The envelope was thin, no return address. Just my name, carefully written. I held it for a long time before opening it. Part of me didn't want to read it. Not because I was afraid of what it said, but because I wasn't sure I cared anymore. But curiosity still lives in the quiet spaces, and eventually, I unfolded it. It was 3 pages long. Handwritten. No edits. No filters. She wrote about how she'd been staying with a friend. That she didn't expect me to take her back. That she knew she handled things poorly. That her life felt suspended now, like she was caught in the wrong movie. She said she missed the smell of the house, the way the floor creaked when I walked into the kitchen, the sound of my laugh when I forgot to hold it in. She said she knew she didn't deserve forgiveness, but she hoped one day I'd remember something good about us and not feel bitter. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and tucked it into the back of a drawer. Not out of spite. Not even sadness. Just finality. That part of my life was over. A few days later, I went to the local bookstore. It had been years since I wandered through aisles without a shopping list or someone pulling me toward a new release they were excited about. I let myself get lost among the shelves. That's where I met Clara. She was arguing with a stranger about whether a particular author had peaked after their second novel. Her passion was unmistakable. Her laugh was loud and unfiltered, nothing like the restrained smiles I'd grown used to. Somehow we ended up in the same checkout line. Somehow we both reached for the same coffee at the shop next door. Somehow, we ended up talking for hours. She didn't ask me about my past. I didn't offer it. That would come later. Clara was chaos in a denim jacket. She wasn't perfect. She didn't pretend to be. But there was something refreshing about how open she was, how fully herself she seemed. She had scars and didn't try to hide them. She asked questions I hadn't been asked in years. What makes you angry? What's your favorite smell? What song do you secretly love but would never admit to anyone? For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was performing. I was just me. We didn't jump into anything fast. I wasn't ready for that, and she didn't expect it. We just started spending time together. Walks. Coffee. Talking. Existing in the same space without trying to impress or control or fix. One night, we sat on my porch watching a summer storm roll in. She turned to me and said, "You seem like someone who's just waking up." That hit me harder than anything. Because she was right. When my ex walked out, she thought she was pulling the rug out from under me. She thought she was burning the bridge. But all she really did was clear the fog. I didn't just wake up, I reclaimed myself. I learned I'm not someone to discard. That being steady doesn't mean being weak. That kindness isn't submission. And that the quiet I once feared is exactly where strength is born. I'm not the man I was a year ago. I'm better. Not because I found someone new. But because I found me. One of the strangest realizations after a breakup, especially one as cold and calculated as mine, is that life doesn't stop. The world doesn't pause for your healing. Your neighbors still walk their dogs. Your local barista still misspells your name. And the bills still arrive on time, indifferent to heartbreak. But something did change. Not outside, but inside me. There was a time when I would have measured my day based on her mood. If she was happy, the sun seemed to shine warmer. If she was cold or distant, everything tasted dull. I didn't see it then, but I'd given her too much power over my peace. Losing her was like having a bone reset, painful, but necessary. The healing was slow, but it was mine. Clara and I kept seeing each other. Nothing heavy. Just real. She respected my space, and I respected her freedom. She didn't try to fill a void, and I didn't expect her to. That's the thing about truly moving on, it's not about replacing one person with another. It's about rebuilding the space they left behind into something stronger. One Saturday morning, I woke up to birdsong and an unexpected feeling, contentment. I made pancakes not because someone asked me to, but because I wanted to. I took my coffee to the porch and watched the neighborhood stir. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower buzzed to life. A kid biked by, his helmet slightly too big. It was all so ordinary and beautiful. Then my phone buzzed. An email. From a law office. It was the finalization notice. The divorce was official. I stared at the screen for a long time. No anger. No sadness. Just closure. Later that day, Clara stopped by. She brought over a second-hand lamp she found at a flea market. "It looks like it belongs here," she said. We set it up in the corner of the living room. It cast a warm, amber glow, soft, welcoming. We didn't talk about the divorce. She didn't even ask. She saw the look in my eyes and just nodded. That's what I loved about her, no pressure, no drama. Just presence. We spent the evening listening to old vinyl records. At one point, she curled up on the couch and said, "You know, this place feels peaceful." That word again. Peaceful. I never realized how much I needed it until I finally had it. Later that week, I decided to do something symbolic. I boxed up everything that reminded me of the past, pictures, gifts, notes, mementos. I didn't throw them away. I'm not bitter. I just didn't want them in sight anymore. I wanted the house to reflect the life I was building, not the one I lost. I stored the box in the attic. Not out of denial, but as a quiet acknowledgement that the past belongs where it can't control the present. A few days after that, I got a message. Not from her, but from one of her friends. The one she'd been staying with. She wrote, "She's not doing well. I'm not saying this to guilt you. I just thought you should know." I read it twice. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't responsible for her anymore. She made her choices. And I made mine. That same night, Clara and I went out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a local diner with good burgers and better milkshakes. We laughed about dumb things. She told me stories from her childhood, I shared some from mine. At one point, she reached across the table and held my hand. "You seem lighter," she said. "I am," I told her. And I meant it. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying someone else's expectations. I wasn't performing. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just living. And in that space, between heartbreak and healing, I found something I didn't expect. Gratitude. Not for the pain. Not for the betrayal. But for the opportunity to start over. To rebuild. To remember who I was before I became a background character in my own story. A year passed before I realized I no longer thought about her every day. It crept up slowly, like sunrise. The sharp memories faded into softer edges. I could walk past the closet she once filled with her scarves and not flinch. I could watch one of her favorite shows without tasting bitterness. Her ghost didn't haunt the hallways anymore. She had become just someone I used to know. And me? I was someone entirely new. The house transformed with me. The paint was different now, richer, warmer tones. I added bookshelves, plants, art I actually liked. I hosted friends again. Laughed again. I reclaimed the kitchen, learned how to actually cook, not just reheat. Every dish I made, every song I played, every choice I made, it all belonged to me. Clara never moved in. Not officially. But she didn't have to. Her presence wasn't about space, it was about balance. She didn't ask for keys, and I didn't need to offer them. Our relationship wasn't about dependency or filling voids. It was about sharing what we each built individually. There was strength in that kind of union where nobody was trying to save or fix the other. One evening, we went hiking. Just outside the city, past where cell service gave up and the only sounds were our breathing and the crunch of leaves beneath our boots. We reached the top of a ridge just as the sun was setting. The sky blazed orange, melting into purple. I stood there, breathing deeply, the cool wind tugging at my jacket. Clara came up beside me and simply said, "Do you ever miss it?" She didn't mean her. She meant the life before, the version of me that lived through that storm. I thought about it. "I don't miss her," I said. "But I think I miss the version of me who tried so hard to make it work." He had heart. He loved deeply. But he didn't know what he deserved. She nodded, resting her head against my shoulder. "He's still here. Just smarter now." That stuck with me. You don't lose yourself in pain. You evolve. If you let it, heartbreak can refine you, not ruin you. Later that night, after we came back home, I pulled out a journal I'd started keeping after she left. It was filled with messy handwriting, crossed out sentences, and raw thoughts. I flipped through the pages and felt a strange pride, not because of what I wrote, but because of how far I'd come. The man who started that journal was broken. Confused. Alone. But the man holding it now was whole. Not perfect. Not unscarred. But stronger. Wiser. Free. A week later, I got a final message from my ex. Simple. Short. "I hope you're happy. Truly." I stared at it for a moment. And then I smiled. Because I was. Not because of revenge. Not because I won. But because I found peace in the ashes. I rebuilt my life, brick by brick. And I did it without malice. Without resentment. She may have walked out thinking I'd fall apart. But instead, I remembered how to stand tall. And I never looked back. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.